with your head, which gives you a strong sense of presence. So an image that tracks where you're looking with sub 20 millisecond accuracy, what we call 20 milliseconds motion to photon, is really important for tricking your brain into thinking you're in a different place. We call that experienced presence. And this is an old idea. People have been working on this for a long time. This is science fiction author Hugo. So that's science fiction author Hugo Gernsback wearing something that was called television goggles. And this is a project that was called the White Suit Project, or the Room for One, by actually an architecture firm called Coop Himmelblau. And their idea was, what could we do to put somebody in a virtual environment back in the 60s? And then VR went pretty far in the 80s and the 90s. I think we remember things that look like this. And you can see the haptic feedback glove that this person's wearing for the NASA research project. The problem with these, though, is that they cost tens of thousands of dollars and usually weigh like 30 or 40 pounds, which are incredibly painful and hard to wear. And then there were early stabs at consumer VR in the 90s. Does anybody here remember the Virtual Boy? So, yeah, and does anybody remember getting a Virtual Boy migraine?
Yeah.
But one of the things that's really driven contemporary VR, the VR revolution as we know it now, is actually smartphone technology. So small, lightweight, high-density, high-resolution displays, and then the IMUs, the inertial movement sensing units like accelerometers, gyroscopes, things like that, in smartphones are what power screens that we can now put on our faces that are high enough fidelity for cheap enough, that move quickly enough to trick us into thinking of VR places. So this is Samsung's collaboration with Oculus, and it's called the Gear VR, and you can get one of these right now. It's like a $200 peripheral that plugs into the Note 4, which is a smartphone, and I brought one of these to demo some stuff on, if you want to come take a look afterwards. And this is sort of the first widely, publicly available, like not entirely for developers, like VR headsets that you can get. And then Oculus, of course, is probably the best known company that's building things today. This is a present day prototype, and what this adds, and you can see all of the lights on it, is positional tracking in addition to motion tracking. So in addition to knowing where you're looking, it knows where you are in a space, which is sort of the key second part of presence. And so there's some stuff that goes into making VR beyond just low latency, and there are a whole bunch of questions that we have to answer about user experience and UI, and how do you do input when you can't see your hands, and controller isn't necessarily the same thing for VR. But it's possible. So this is Dactyl Attack, which was a VR game from the 90s, and what a lot of people... Oh, I got only a minute left? Okay, so I'm going to forget this. This is lame, all right? But people are making video games now which are seated experiences that really work. And then people are also making VR cinema, which is one of the huge things that it is going to be so key to being in Los Angeles. Stereoscopic panoramic 360 video that you can be in a movie, in your face. There are a lot of challenges with VR, such as it does away with any sort of framing device, or even the proscenium arch, if you will, from theater. If people can look anywhere, how do you direct somebody's attention? That's a creative decision that has to be answered. There's also sort of this public perception of, do you want to strap something to your face? Well, that's really awkward, and it feels bad as a human being to do that. But people are already inhabiting virtual space. If you think about how much time people spend on their phones living their lives that are not, tied to the space that they're in, we do it a ton. And we've been doing it a ton for a long time. So there's a ton of great ways to get involved in VR, and I wish you could talk